Hello, Blade fans. Warren Blade here talking about ZT discontinuing the 909. I really like the 909 as a knife. It's part of a category of knives I'm going to call the muscle knives. Basically, the muscle knives are like the muscle cars were in the 70s. They're big, strong knives that have a strong place in the lineup, but in terms of the changing whims of the knife industry, are now getting possibly left behind for slimmer, more compact folders. I hope not. I hope that's not where ZT's heading. I know that they essentially discontinued knives they say aren't selling well, which I'd love to know what ZT considers as something that's not selling well, considering you have companies like Benchmade that have knives in the catalog for 10 or 12 years before they're changed or pulled out. Even Spyderco isn't really into changing up too much of its primarily Golden Colorado produced lines. Granted, some of their foreign lines are changed a lot, but their domestic stuff more or less remains the same. So ZT is really the company that constantly innovates, and then when they have an innovation like this knife, which is as close to perfection, I think, in terms of a hard use folder as you can really get in terms of these bolsters here. Look at how thick those are. And this handle and this pivot and the blade thickness. I mean, this thing is just, it's a muscle knife. It's made to really be used. I mean, I can see that in a military role where you're in combat and you're getting that thing scratched up, or you're a firefighter and you're going through burning buildings with this thing in your pocket, and you're banging into walls and knocking down doors and all that other stuff, and you don't have to worry about a dainty little knife breaking in your pocket because it's a beast. And ZT in 2017, when they put out their catalog, I was honestly disappointed with some of the stuff in there. It's slimmer models, there's strange models, there's designs that kind of ugly. It makes you wonder, like, what were they thinking with these? So I'm hoping that it's not like what happened to the muscle cars, where you saw muscle cars being replaced by little economy models. And some of that was because of when we had the muscle cars in the United States, there was a gasoline crisis and they just couldn't afford to have cars that got 8 miles a gallon. But some of it is, to a certain degree, industry whims, where they're not making them really at all, other than making a small amount. And it's like, well, with these knives, is it an industry whim, or is it really they're just not selling them? And I find it hard to believe, especially when this was discontinued. I saw these go on sale at GP Knives for $135, and they were gone within 3 days. And other retailers also priced them down, the $150 range. And I highly recommend looking for one of these while they're still available, because the 909 I see as being essentially a mistake that ZT decided to discontinue this one. Some of the other models, if they sit in that catalog and they're really not selling, yeah, discontinue them. It's like, well, I don't know how many of the ZT 630s were selling. I personally like the design, but it just never seemed like they were, unavailable, which I think ZT wants to see knives that you literally can't find in stock, and that's maybe their definition of having good product sales versus, say, Benchmade or Spyderco, where they have knives and they tally up the figures in some other way. Well, you had other models also that were discontinued, like the 804CF, which is also an interesting knife, also a large knife, but it's not exactly the same level of utility as this one, where this is all steel and G10. I mean, just a flat out beast of a blade. And I just don't understand. You go through all the time to make this. You go through a revision within its first year of production. This just came out in April of 2016, and they did a scale revision. The original scales were much more textured than this one was. And you go through that and you make it up to this point where whatever, you want to call this the Gen 2 of the 909, it's just an excellent all-around blade, and you discontinue it after a year of production. Why? And you have things like the 350, where I'm sure some of you guys love the 350. I've never really had an interest in it. It's S30V. I personally hate S30V. I mean, your mileage may vary with that steel. I think S35VN is, so much better as far as an all-around blade steel, ease of sharpening, not chipping when you cut something with it. But I don't understand how this one dies in the catalog and the 350 has endured for 7, 8 years. So it's just industry whims and sales, I guess. But essentially, I'd hate to see the muscle knives as a category go the way of the muscle cars. And I really hope that ZT is clearing up room for their 2018 lineup so that they can put knives like this in the lineup and not have a bunch of knives like we saw in 2017, where I know my reaction and a lot of other people's reactions was lukewarm at best. And I really, other than maybe the 920, don't see myself buying any of the 2017s. So ZT, I want to say, good job on this model, but you're discontinuing it, so please bring us something hard use for 2018 that either improves on this or makes it better. And please make some more Emerson collabs if you can. I mean, I like them. Maybe they don't sell well, but they also seem like they'd be, good hard use knives if you put out the right ones. Perhaps a CQC7 kind of collab from ZT. Be kind of cool. Hint, hint. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and I'd love to hear what your comments are.